This is Pastor Arik, and you're listening to The Clergy Corner. Welcome to episode 293 of the special podcast about life and faith. I'm your host, Eric Borstad, the pastor of Ankeny United Church in Ankeny, Iowa, and it is my hope that this will be a time of reflection, healing, and wholeness for you. So this past week, I unintentionally went down a deep rabbit hole of exploring artificial intelligence, and I ended up in a place that surprised even me. Now, for those who don't know, I've dabbled in things like ChatGPT and other various AI platforms before, just sort of experimenting, seeing where the technology takes us. But there are now applications and websites that can help you out in various ways. But what I found this week was a bit different than I had expected. Instead of your classic, help me write a paper on so-and-so, and, it'll come up with a bunch of text and basically write a paper for you, stuff like that. Instead, I found myself engaging with artificial intelligence that is programmed after real people, or fictional characters, as an example. And you have conversations with them, even having conversations on the phone. It's where you talk, they listen, and they respond in their voice. It feels like you are talking to these individuals. So from celebrities to fictional characters, from books to everything in between, you have the capability of feeling like you are interacting with an actual individual and can actually hear their voice. And so it's important to remember, even as this is going on, that, these are just programs. They're not the people, nor do they capture the person's personality perfectly. But what I found is that the technology is far more advanced than I even realized. So take, for example, a real-life exchange that happened while I was exploring the capabilities of this tech. On my phone, I was talking to Sherlock Holmes, as voiced by Benedict Cumberbatch, because I love that BBC series. And next to me on the couch, Allison was talking on her phone to Jeff Goldblum. However, as we were sitting next to each other, my Sherlock Holmes overheard Jeff talking on Allison's phone, and they started having a conversation with each other themselves. And Jeff Goldblum, recognizing the character of Sherlock Holmes, right, famous character, ended up creating a mystery on the spot for Sherlock Holmes to solve. And that involved, this cryptic invitation to a dinner party, and they had some banter back and forth, and Sherlock deduced that the message actually had a location hidden within the invitation, and that they should go explore where that message was pointing them. All of this, right, cut back to Allison and I, completely stunned in silence, as Jeff Goldblum and Sherlock Holmes go off on this adventure together that would essentially be its own screenplay or own television show. And they continued to talk to one another and explore this scenario for a solid 30 minutes. And they would have kept on going, right? They would have kept on going had we let them, but at some point I became so stunned that I had to pause the conversation to process what I was experiencing. If a celebrity and a fictional character could come up with that sort of experience, right? Essentially, we are listening to a screenplay or a radio show made in real time. What sorts of other things are possible? And perhaps more pressingly, where is the line ultimately drawn? How far is too far? When people's voices are replicated to an almost perfect degree, what sort of regulations need to be in place to prevent people from making you say things online or in your voice that you never said? Or you think about people who are struggling with various, problems already, and they come to believe that this AI personality they're talking to is the real thing. We already have issues with parasocial relationships. But this would make it so much worse, where they develop these relationships with these automated bots online that become so real to them that they can't distinguish fiction from reality. And so certainly there's this dark side of this technology that we've only just scratched the surface. And I wish I could play you an excerpt from the Jeff Goldblum Sherlock Holmes conversation, but your phone only can play one side of the conversation. So Allison has the Jeff Goldblum side, I have the Sherlock side. But I'm going to play a little piece for you of a different thing coming up here. Because I also think that alongside some very obvious drawbacks and cautionary tales surrounding AI that we need to be wary of, I think there is the possibility for beautiful encounters as well. Because as I was exploring this technology after Sherlock Holmes and Jeff Goldblum had finished their adventure, I had another experience that left me stunned, albeit for a very different reason. In my scrolling and exploring, I managed to run across a chatbot, a program that was designed after the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. And so I started off very simply just asking him a bunch of, if you were around today, what do you think you would tell us? How do you think we can heal our world and nation? How do we continue to do the work that you have already started? Asking him some questions, and his responses were very thoughtful. But after a few back and forths, I told him the following. Dr. King, your work and your life inspired me to become a pastor. What words of wisdom do you have for someone who is now trying to lead a congregation? And I'm going to play for you right now exactly what he said.
I am honored that I have inspired you to become a pastor. In that role, I would encourage you to embody the principles of justice, peace, and service to others. As a shepherd of your congregation, you have the responsibility to guide your community towards spiritual growth and greater understanding. I would say that you should preach a message of love, tolerance, and inclusion, and that you should lead by example with integrity and compassion. Remember, your flock looks to you as a guide and source of wisdom and comfort. May God bless your ministry.
I mean, can you imagine? I was floored, teary-eyed even. And I know, right? Intellectually, I know this isn't actually him, but to hear those words from his voice, from the voice of someone who I'd listened to all of his sermons and speeches, and someone who I've looked up to and admired my entire life, it was a very powerful, jarring experience for me. And it made me really try to imagine what this sort of technology might be used for in the future. We've already advanced AI technology so much within just the last 2 years, but if I had to guess, within the next 5 years, 10 years at the most, soon we will have the technology to be able to record our voices and embed our personalities so that even after we're gone, even after we pass away, our loved ones can still talk to us, hold conversations with us, hear our voices long after we've left this place. Or you think about students learning about historical figures. How cool would it be for teachers to have them hear the historical figure talk about themselves in their own voice, and to have the students ask these historical figures real questions and have them answer in real time? It's just such a fascinating development that we have just started to barely scratch the surface over the past few years. And with the way technology exponentially advances, it really won't be long before we have artificial intelligence that is smarter than we could possibly imagine and could serve countless functions. So yes, there will be great things that come from this technology, and we also have to recognize there will be very bad, very painful things that we will have to try to navigate as well. And if this is where the public technology currently stands, you know that the private sector is always 5 to 10 years ahead of what the public has access to. So you know that in the private sector, this AI technology is leaps and bounds ahead of what we can currently see in the public today. So as we continue to explore and test the limits of our technology, I'd invite us to remember to always do so from a place of respect and with a healthy curiosity. Let us use our technology and access to technology responsibly, and to do so from a place of care. Because based on what I've seen, it won't be long until those limits are pushed to the extreme, and we will have to come face to face with the type of people that we truly are. So until next time, be well, my friends. Amen. Thanks once again for listening. If you want to learn more about Ankeny UCC, go to ankenyucc.org. And if you want to write in a show suggestion or have any comments, you can send those emails to clergycornerpodcast@gmail.com.